Good morning and welcome back to Margin. This morning I want to talk about part 2 of replacing lifestyle creep with margin. So let's jump right into it. So the sixth sign comes down to staying on trend when it comes to your wardrobe, when it comes to your fashion sense. And so many times we can get caught up in staying on trend, staying in season per se. But oftentimes we don't realize how much that costs, how expensive it is to replace those articles of clothing, probably before they needed to be replaced. And I experienced this firsthand when I stepped into my first senior finance leadership role. And I went out and bought suits. I went out and bought suits for that role. And if you have bought a suit, you don't just buy the suit. There's a lot of other components that go along with it. Not to mention the fact that you have to get everything dry cleaned. So with that, there's a cost, an ongoing cost to maintain that look, maintain that style. And unfortunately, what it can do is drain our pocketbooks and lead to less margin in our finances, especially when we don't necessarily need to go all out in that area. So the seventh sign comes down to increasing our minimum requirements when it comes to traveling. So this is so easy to do, whether it is upgrading that rental car or it's moving from coach to first class, or it is taking extra bags we don't necessarily need, or signing up for that credit card that has an annual fee that gets us into those luxury lounges at the airport. Now, there's a number of different things we can spend money on that inflate or increase our enjoyment in life, and there may be certain components that are worth doing, like TSA pre-check or something like that. But when it comes to early bird check-in and paying for that for every flight that you're on or some other component, you may not actually need that. And it may be an aspect of lifestyle creep you haven't realized that you're spending quite a bit of money on. So the eighth sign of lifestyle creep comes down to club memberships, those wholesale stores that we walk in the doors and we look at all of these items we never knew we needed. And oftentimes we can get pulled aside by these kiosk attendants who can talk us into getting a water test, or maybe getting our HVAC checked out, or maybe finally getting a solar package on our homes. And so many of us walk out with those appointments or actually purchase those components from those big box stores, and it wasn't something that we put that research into. And especially with components like that are high dollar, high ticket items that typically you would spend a lot of time researching normally, but we get caught off guard when we're grocery shopping, and oftentimes can sign up for these things and end up with something that we have not researched, and now we have to figure out how to operate. So the ninth sign comes down to being on a first name basis with your food delivery folks, your local food delivery folks who are bringing you your McDonald's. So this has become more and more popular for obvious reasons, and with that, it's so easy to just go ahead and jump on the app, order whatever food we want, and have it delivered to us. The problem is that we don't actually look at how expensive it is to have that burger and fries delivered to you. So usually what I do is I filter it through the standpoint of how difficult it is to replicate that food. And that comes down to whether it's ingredients or preparation. And oftentimes I look at maybe Thai or sushi, which are two things I frequent, and how difficult that would be to prepare those entrees myself. And so I'll order in, or I'll have something delivered if it is something that is not so easy for me to make myself. But what I would encourage you to do is to look at how much are you spending on having food delivered in, and many times for genres of food that you could easily make yourself. So the 10th and final sign comes down to insurance. And oftentimes we can sign up for insurances that can be unnecessary. And unfortunately, what ends up happening is we may get a slick salesman who panders to our fear or guilt or some other emotion and gets us to sign up for an additional policy for burial services or an additional insurance, life insurance policy or something else. But it is easy to have an experience lifestyle creep in this area in taking on policies that are not actually necessary. So I believe it's important to look at your policies, look at those that you actually need, and evaluate those. Now, we are going to be going through policies like this, insurance policies like this, in an upcoming theme, in an upcoming series. But for now, it's important for you to look at those policies that you've taken on because of the life cycle that you're in, and maybe the pressures that you feel from those around you, not necessarily looking at it as to whether you need that policy. Now, of course, this is not a comprehensive list, but it's important for you to look at those areas that you may have experienced lifestyle creep, which then ends up reducing your margin in your finances. And oftentimes with little margin in your finances, you can end up utilizing unsecured debt to cover the costs of these types of things. So my call to action today would be to look at your finances as though you were standing outside that hot tub. Now, did you take on, costs from one of those 10 signs that you would probably only take on if you were pressured into it, if you were looking at your neighbor, looking at your family, looking at your friends, and not necessarily looking at what you actually want out of life. And I would encourage you to do that today. Look at these 10 signs and see if any resonate with you. If this information is helpful to you, please do like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you're reminded to come back on a daily basis and improve in managing your personal finances. Thank you for your time. Enjoy your day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.